a campaign ran on the narrative of the hustlers that was, intended to build into the spirit of cooperation the downtrodden Kenyan, and that of course includes the Mama Mboga, the border riders, and the have-nots of Kenya. Was the campaign run by Kenya Kwanza government that led into a very slight margin win of only 2,000 votes. So from the word go, I think anticipated that he would have stiff opposition in his entire administration. But we didn't know that it would come less than 2 years into his term of office. And this time not led by Raila Amolo Odinga, not led by Kalonzo Musyoka, not led by Mama Martha Karua, but led by Generation Z, a group of young people who are saying enough is enough. Kenya, a country highly indebted with its debt to GDP ratio more than 50%, intends to, tax its way out of debt or tax its way out of poverty, and therefore finds itself introducing a finance bill that was rejected, from all corners of the country. And we saw the demonstrations and the riots across, and lives were lost. But the unique turn of events is that the president, called these acts criminal acts, but later on, less than 24 hours, conceded and said he will not sign the Finance Bill 2024. Viewers, I'm joined by a panel of distinguished young people to discuss and put all this into perspective. And in just no particular order, I introduce them to you. From the extreme left, my left, your right, is the Right Honourable Speaker of the National Youth Parliament, Sam Olaa. We are pleased to have you.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. But I'm also pleasure to be in the honor of very distinguished young people today.
Don't you miss the seat? Maybe miss it a bit. Yeah. We shall swap along the way, don't worry. Next to Sam Okot Sam Olaa is the National Youth Coordinator of the Alliance for National Transformation, and also a lawyer. Oh, Sam is also a lawyer. I forgot to mention that. Sam is a lawyer as well. And so is Agaba Nelson. Agaba, you have been missing in action. We are happy to have you again.
Yeah, thank you, Kidega, for having me on this show. And I'm glad to be part of this distinguished, panel. I look forward for the conversation.
It's a pleasure. At least the one person we know obviously is a Gen Z on this show. is called. The rest of us, okay, we fall in between there, but this one here we are sure is a Gen Z, and that is Gold Ikyiriza. Gold is the Vice President of the Ugandan National Students Association. Gold, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kidega. It's a pleasure being here. I look forward to contributing and being a voice of the Gen Zs over there. Thank you so much.
Interesting. Down in the colors of his new home is Roy Rugumayo. Roy is a proud member of the National Resistance Movement, but also he's the team leader of the New Bold Vision. Roy, I love the shirt, but welcome to the show.
I don't know why the bat. Thank you so much, Ndugu Kidega, for having me yet again. At the last we met, I wasn't yet a member. Yeah. But now I'm a member of the NRM.
Okay.
And very proud one at that. Yeah. So I am donned in the party colors. Yeah. Also very honored to be amidst these very highly distinguished colleagues. And I look forward to a good discussion with all of us. Yes.
All right, let us just begin the conversation straight away. Nelson, let me just throw it to you. Just a general comment about what is happening in Kenya.
Yeah, thank you, Kidega, once again, and to the viewers of this Youth Roundtable. Generally, what is happening in Kenya is, general freedom of expression of how people, coming out to say, look, this is what we feel, this is our voice. And, but it is not something that happened, out of the blue. Just to put it in perspective, that, it is always a build-up. In law, there is what we call the last straw doctrine. You keep being patient for a long time. Then before you know it, something small becomes a trigger. So what we saw in Kenya, it is much bigger than the financial bill. Only that the financial bill
is the trigger.
Became a trigger that you know, raised voices of all, you know, Kenyans. You saw mothers blessing their children, you know, praying for them to go and fight on their behalf. So, and why is to say that when, and it's something that, you know, all governments across the region need to look at. Things that touch the common person unite people to fight for their right. Because, you know, entirely, you know, most cases, you know, you look at, for example, the new taxes that we are brought on board. You know, just a few of them, not all of them were too bad, but a few of them, like a tax on bread, because I think it was then it was 0 rated, and now they are bringing it on the VAT. You know, like bread, then fuel, but also on transportation of sugar. Then they're also trying to protect local industries and manufacturers by increasing, you know, levy on the imports. But generally speaking, you look at the bread. I was speaking to a Kenyan colleague, and they're saying what they are going to do now, the bread is about you know, 55 Kenyan shilling, and now with the tax it would be around 70 Kenyan shilling. That's, you know, so you look at something like bread, and this is not the first time. We saw what happened in Sudan. It was also a price of bread, and many other countries that
even I think the French Revolution, Maria Antoinette.
Yes, so things like that, bread, fuel, things that really for the common person. So for me, it is that time comes, you know, that the population gets fed up, like they lose it, and the only option is to say, guys, let's defend our own right, let's exercise this right. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Fair enough. Sam, let me get to you. Just how difficult is it to be William Ruto right now? Because you inherit a government that is highly indebted, and you have to find means of how to service this debt, but also grow the economy at the same time. Just how difficult is it between a rock and a hard place?
Well,
as you give your general overview as well.
Yes. Firstly, I would like to congratulate all our colleagues in Kenya who stood up. And if anyone is asking the rationale on which Ruto stood and said the people have spoken, it's because the young people in Africa are the majority. And now we are starting to see in such examples Ruto with manifesting that in feeling the pressure and saying, what? This has to go. This cannot stand. And conceding something that is very rare, given that he has all the power and the parliament had voted yes. So I congratulate Kenyans on yet another test of democracy. Time and time again, our colleagues have proven themselves and have beaten several barriers. And I believe Kenya, every time there's a problem, the beauty with Kenya is every crisis, they don't step back, they step up. Starting from 28, all the elections, the ICC crisis, they always step up. They always step up, and it's a beauty to see this progress. Of course, Ruto is a seasoned politician. I do not think he's very, very, very stressed or out of his skin. By now, he's numb. He's a gentleman who has gone through the rigors of politics, through the heat of coming from nothing, over 20 years and more. And so I don't think he's somewhere extremely stressed. However, he has to manage politics being a science, but also an art. He has to now ask himself, what are the dynamics? One of them being, of course, as you stated very well in the preamble, that Kenya is almost a binary election. I believe, as you said, it was 2000, also there about that range. And therefore, we have half of the country that perhaps feel, you know, they always say it's better to lose 4-0 than 1-0 because 1-0 you're always asking yourself, but what could have been? And you're always questioning all decisions. So I think it's a binary society, and there's actually a strong bloc that is against him. And together with the Gen Zs, we could I mean, from the analysis coming out of the crisis is that there's one bloc saying Ruto out, and one bloc that was decrying the financial bill. And perhaps a lot of them are also mixed. A lot of individuals have both sentiments. I think he's not worried about I don't think he's really scared. Really, I think Kenya has transcended that level of Ruto out by a coup or, you know, popular uprising. I think that is something that is going to be managed. There's no reason for worry. I believe the concession was enough to quench this issue, and also we can now see that it is becoming unpopular. The riots, the members in, the traders in town are seeing the looting, but also because it's politics. Also, Ruto's side now gets a chance to say these are goons. Yeah, it's all a game. Now there's another very important dimension, which is the finances. Maybe we will go deeper into it as we go along, but Kenya is not an isolated situation. Uganda, we have just had a big fight with the president regarding tax. That was the crux of the Kololo meeting with the traders. And if you recall, there was civil disobedience in town before that. It's an Africa-wide thing, and in my analysis, political economy-wise, I think there is a correction happening on the African continent. This is the first time in history the Western world has not had an interest in putting money in Africa for their own gain. If you look at missionaries, they were putting money for medication and everything. They knew what they wanted. If you look at the colonialism, they invested in our development. They knew what they wanted. But those were the British. After independence, we had the Americans with the neoliberal changes and all of that, structural adjustments. They knew what they wanted. It was an imperialistic gain. But the world is now on the one side, the world is now retracting. It's getting more nationalist. Europe has just voted a right-wing governance. In the US, Trump is coming back. And generally, they are retracting from giving money to Africa. But also, Africa had gotten comfortable with that kind of money. So our development missed out on the actual factors of development, which is industry and jobs for the people. And because that money was making our leaders comfortable, and all these issues of corruption came up. So I believe what is happening across the continent is that now people are realizing that money is retracting. The Rutos have, if you follow Ruto's speeches all over the world, he's negotiating the price of debt. Money is going away. And so Africa is now waking up. Oh, the US is also saying, you guys, since now you're dealing with China, why should we continue funding you guys?
So doesn't that then justify the actions of William Ruto, that because there's money that is being withdrawn out of the economy, therefore we should find ways of how to generate the money domestically? There's a proper, that is one rationale. That's why I'm saying there's a correction that has to happen. Also, the Museveni here was saying... So you're standing with the actions of William Ruto indirectly? Because no, I'm explaining the rationale. And I'm also explaining that it's going to happen all over the continent. In Uganda, for us, we brought it more in tax efficiency of collecting taxes. In Kenya, they just looked for where to... But Africa must now fund itself. That's the truth. We must have actual industries that produce jobs. And so that correction is going to go... It's a corrective wave, economic correction that's going on continental-wise. Wow, interesting.
So yeah,
very interesting analysis.
I'll leave that for later.
Interesting analysis. Gold, let me come to you. Just before we get into the deep economic conversation, is that Ruto ran a campaign on the hustler narrative. But the point is, how risky is it to run a campaign on populism? Because the hustler notion was a typical populist narrative or campaign. Because how practical is it to cut taxes, to give incentives to, because that is what Kenya Kwanza promised.
Universal,
like everything was going to be free. So just the risk of running a campaign on an impractical basis. Is this him paying the price for running a campaign on a fallacy?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kidega. One is that I should say...
But also your general overview of the situation. Yeah.
I applaud all the Gen Zs, Kenyan Gen Zs, that really stood on their grounds to say no to this. They protest, the protests that they carried out and all that. And this surely identifies that before government or parliament reveals anything to the public, they should first discuss it to their own understanding. Is it really good that we can tax here and there, or hiking that all the taxes, and then is it beneficial to our citizens? Or because I think if at all they had discussed about it, and yes, it was passed, but if one Okot Olaa stood on ground and is like, no, I don't believe in this, in parliament, maybe I'm saying is an MP, and is like, no, I don't think this is right. This budget is really too heavy for the citizens, and the taxes are really high. You wouldn't see any Gen Z on streets or protesting. But the fact that they let everything go out of hand, and this is what is happening, the Gen Zs have stood out because they're the only energetic youths that Kenya has, and even Uganda, I should say. Yeah. The other thing is that I believe, in my own perception, I think Ruto came with that ambitiousness. One, the country is in debt. Second, he has to clear that in his term of office, and also benefit gain more money to run the country. I don't know if you're getting it. And here...
The question is that, was he naive of the reality? Because he was deputy president for 10 years. So was he naive of the country's... Minister of... So was he naive of the country's debt? Was he... I mean, prior to him coming, was he aloof to this fact?
Yeah, he made many promises, true. But again, I don't... The promises he made, I think he's going to... Literally, this has blown everything off to the promises that he made.
The Hustler Fund was funded for the first financial year. In the next financial year, it was scrapped off. Yeah. So you can see that he is not coming to deal with the reality that they're facing.
What he expected, of course, is not what he has found there in power. I think he expected more of everything being done in his regime and all that. Yes, he was deputy, but occupying such an office, you need more knowledge on how to handle certain things. That's why the conversation that probably is gaining knowledge from the president of Uganda, who has been in power for quite some good time. And of course, we don't know about that, but I think really Ruto is going to face it hard to reconstruct whatever has been demolished in Kenya.
Okay, interesting. Roy, let's speak about the vanguard that is emerging. This protest was not led by Raila Amolo Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, any of those notorious names. It was a grassroots youth-led movement. But there are also those who have spoken about the institutions of Kenya and how independent they are. That we saw the restraint with which the Kenya police acted. We saw the judiciary saying that no, it is unconstitutional to deploy the KDF. So to me, the question is, besides us, giving credit to the Gen Z, what role did the institutions and their independence play in ensuring that the Gen Zs have a successful movement? Because I think that could have been quelled if the institutions were playing to the interest of the regime. So just your general comments, but also the institutions of Kenya, generally speaking.
Thank you so much. What we saw in Kenya is good and worth applause, because as you've mentioned, unlike the past organizings that were along generally tribal sentiments and the strongman effect, that when Raila says this, and that's the position of a certain group of Kenyans, and they're going to push it.
Yeah.
And you saw what effect it can have on the country, like in the 2007 and others that have been coming through. So now what we've seen, particularly in this kind of organizing, is that there has been transcending of those lines to interest-based advocacy along the entire population. Because we saw even in President Ruto's own hometown, people were demonstrating. And the protesters were coming together as the United Nations of Kenya, everyone regardless of where they come from and all that. And that is good progress in as far as their politics is concerned, and we hope and pray that it continues that way. Also that's what we saw in the election. It was the haves versus the have-nots, and the conversation of the kingpins, the tribal kingpins, didn't so much come up in the past election. And so this movement that we have seen is a continuation of the people of Kenya's progress.
So is there a new consciousness in
Yes,
Kenya that is moving away from the sentiments of tribe?
Yeah, true, and that, yes, that definitely. And the major events that mobilize people have at least shown us that the consciousness is heading towards that direction. Now, what the president has done, what the president of Kenya has done, is also applaudable. We have to applaud the population, but also the president. Another one would have stood their ground and continued. More than 23 would have died, or it would still be going on up to now. So the ability to see how the matter was progressing and coming up to say, I concede, let's discuss. And you've seen further action has been taken. He has called for civil society, the churches, the youth groups, the youth movement leaders to send in 2 representatives each for a team of 100 people who are going to traverse the country and make extensive consultation of, okay, you're saying we should not tax bread. What do you suggest should be the tax strategy? This is our debt. This is our budget.
But
where,
just a second, because isn't that democracy very expensive? Because
it is, but
you have to finance.
But the alternative,
people who have to
the alternative,
you're trying to save money, but then you're creating an avenue to use more taxpayers' money. So what are they going to do that the MPs cannot go and do? Because the MPs are tasked with that same responsibility to go down and consult and bring the views of the people
to parliament,
to debate it, and so
democracy is very expensive, but autocracy is even more expensive because the few days that we saw a hand of autocracy, we've lost more lives, more property has been destroyed. So it is more fashionable to fund this democratic process, and I think somehow it plays into the politics of course there is governing, and now there is the politics that he has to play, because 2027 is also not very far. So he also has to play to the gallery of he listened, and indeed he has to listen. But also now he faces a huge challenge of moving forward. Whatever policy he has to bring has to pass
through
the sieve of the streets, and that can be quite expensive. That you need the approval of the rowdy masses for anything, and yet the election is you seeking their mandate, and when they give you the mandate, I think you should have some form of liberty to work in their best interest, even when sometimes it is going to be hard on them, but you have their interests to protect, and they have given you the mandate to protect those interests. Now, regarding the institutions, indeed, they played.
I think you saw the Director General of the Kenya Intelligence Services having the audacity to respond to the president, and telling him off. And
yes, and
here in Uganda.
no. I think
Different.
you do not make those comparisons. I
Mm.
think if it was here in Uganda, the situation wouldn't have gone to that extent, because we have one of the most listening presidents in the whole world. You see, these whispers had lasted over 3 months on social media,
Yes.
on TikTok. These people were complaining. It wasn't a result of one day's thing. People have been complaining about the taxes, about the president's expenditure. Remember when he traveled to the US?
Yeah.
There was a huge uproar online about how much he was spending, how he hired a private
jet.
means when there was a national carrier, how the office of the first lady, how you remember in Arusha when the first daughter said she's there to represent the office of the first daughter, and
Everything.
all this has been happening. You see, if it was here in Uganda, so much uproar has been happening, but whenever it has, the president has come in to listen. Remember the Ifris? Traders were all over the place, and he called them and listened to them. You remember the Kampala Roads exhibition? All over the place, and he listened and called on KCCA who said they didn't have money.
So maybe the question is about form or substance, and that's why I have to bring in Nelson. Nelson, just two things for me is that one of the incidents was that we saw a young person carry the mess out of parliament. I don't know, in your constitutional analysis, does that first of all represent an overthrow of the government? I mean, I don't know what that means. I mean, if you have a symbol as powerful as the mess being hijacked by people who are, you know, so okay, but the point is, what is your evaluation of that? But secondly, is what he has talked about. Do you think William Ruto's administration undermined the situation? Was the intelligence insufficient? Did he consider the Raila's absentia, and because Raila has been absent owing to his African Union bid and all those things, I think I take a back seat a bit. So I think maybe so did the intelligence. I think they also took a rest and said, Raila is away, so did the intelligence or did William to undermine the entire situation in general?
Yeah, that's one statement that I can associate myself with, because one, as he mentioned, the talks about how they were rejecting the bill were over for over 3 months. You know, when the bill was in the committee stage, when it came for tabling, reading and all that, before it was passed.
Sure.
So if he had that listening ear, because there was a conversation all over the place, all over TikTok, for him, he thought he would perhaps, you know, when something has not happened to you, you are like, you're a game over it. So before you know it, he was taken by surprise, because he didn't expect to see, you know, one, you know, we normally we call it a Generation Z kind of revolution, but none of them were even millennials, even some X. You know, Generation X, we are also part of the same revolution. So, and this goes back to what I mentioned. When you look at the promises of Ruto, of course, had promised affordable housing. I was in Mombasa, you know, around March, April there. They will tell you, yeah, it is a program. He says it is a program that is going to roll in phases. Yeah, it is ongoing, but they are not seeing the tangible. You know, the way he presented it during his campaign time, it was as if it was going to enroll and
people
you know,
houses.
and people get houses. Issues about fertilizers. For example, I saw him saying, yes, now I have reduced the price of fertilizers. Yes, so those are the very few.
And they bought fake fertilizers.
Then, of course, there is a conversation about, you know, the quality of the fertilizers and all that. But as I said, most things, this is not the first time we have seen voices united together, you know, for a common, you know, cause. Especially when you place the nose so hard, it will have no option but to bleed. So, and I think the mistake they did is to bring all these amendments at once. Because there was actually most of the thing, the similar thing that we had, like mobile money. You know, we pay taxes on mobile money. So one of the things that united most Kenyans was M-Pesa, that tax on M-Pesa. Because M-Pesa is so you know, is even
the bloodline.
Yeah, is the bloodline of their financial transactions.
Yeah.
Then bread, then these others, then there is this
Monetary
excessive, you know, expenditure within the president's office, and you know, that kind of extravagant, that you know, financial abuse. So united them. So one, he didn't have that wisdom to say, look, because they were warning, even during their MPs who even said that this debate can bring trouble, can lead, you know, they mentioned all those things.
Just a question, hypothetical, is that we have public officers in Uganda who spend, who live such kind of, you know, compass lives. But how comes we have not been triggered to say no, enough is enough, and you know, we should speak against this or take action against this.
And I will tell you,
how different are we?
no, time will come. I will tell you, time will come. We may even not know. It may be even tomorrow or the following day or the following week. Anything can happen. So one thing, I think as a head of state, I saw him coming up, you know, undermining the capacity of the national security director, saying they have the most incompetent police. Wow, how could they, you know, not have intel on what was, you know, being planned and all that. But from the word go, he would have listened to the common Kenyan through members of parliament, even the members of parliament on the floor, cautioned the parliament and the president about the likelihood of a spark, you know, that would cost Kenya and all Kenyans. And it happened. So for me, it is a lesson to all of us. And for General Museveni, he was mentioning that, he's a listening person. I think, yes, General Museveni, we can give him his scores. He listens, but he's also good at manipulation. We can say that. He listens, but good at manipulation. You will listen, you will not score, he will score. But all in the name of his listening. And that's how he has managed to do this game. You know, we are already, you know, you can have the Ronaldo of Kenya, you can have a Messi here. You know, they are all good at their game. But when you analyze the entire situation, is that voices of the population of a country in a democratic population or country must be listened to. Yes, and Ruto has it. He said it that he came on saying, okay, will not sign the bill. I've cut, you know, spending. I'm going to reduce on offices. He's going to ensure that, you know, he can mitigate. Even goes ahead to say that they have given him hard choices to make, and will continue engaging them and engaging them. But will that solve, will that bring satisfaction to the common Kenyan person? That's another, you know, discussion altogether. Because time will come when the president needs to make decisions, you know, not to appease, but for the benefit of the country. And there has to be a thin line of, you know, keep falling off to say, hey, you know, whatever they want, you have to do it, whatever, you know, because it is politics. You get it? But he has to reign over as a leader, you know, so there is that aspect of leadership that has to be given. But how it is exercised? So the process. If, for example, he had arrested this bill at committee stage or during parliament, if parliament had listened and, you know, now a conversation had to go on, perhaps he would have succeeded, because there were voices even within his coalition to say, look, we need to cause some amendments. They resisted, they went ahead. So it's all about listening and respecting people's voices.
And I think that's why I want to bring in Sam, to just pick it up from there. Sam, one of the powerful Asian tigers is Singapore. Singapore, if you look at the mode it developed and the approach that Lee Kuan Yew took, it was almost a fist hand. He said, okay guys, you want human rights, you want what, but we are going to develop fast. And the same approach was adopted by Mao Zedong. He said, guys, we are going to develop China at whatever cost it is. Now, for us here, we are tied up in, oh, the people have to be heard. And I mean, that is, it's part of an ideal democratic situation. But just how long will development come if at every stage you have to go back and go through a bureaucratic process? Because now, Kenya is a country that is highly indebted. You need to finance your budget.
Now you have 100 people.
You said, I mean, you told us that, you know, there is a shift in the global finances. Now, with all that, where will the money come from? If at every point you have to, oh, Banange, oh, you people, now what? So, how hard is it?
At the end of the day, we have to find a balance. Unlike those countries you're talking about, Africa, you know, when you look at Singapore, China, and the Asian tigers, the cities, I mean, industrialization preceded the cities. If you look at Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Laos, all these cities are known for certain industry. A city can be known for making doors, for making furniture, etc. Here we have a situation where the people precede the industrialization. So Kampala is not known for any particular product or any particular factory. Maybe ginger was, but it was nothing compared to the globe. If you look at Nairobi, so our cities are people first, then industries later, productivity later. And I think that is a fundamental difference and something that has to change. So your question has many dimensions, but I think on the one hand, of course, the government has to be financed. The issue, and why I was calling it a correction, is that it is happening in real time right now. That first of all, Western aid is decreasing. It's not popular anymore. Europe has been overtaken by right-wing wave. And two, the cost of debt is too high for Africans. And this has been, for all things people say about Ruto, Ruto has actually been the biggest campaigner this whole year of the price of debt for Africa. So on the one hand, that has to be managed. And I mean, you say Kenya has debt, Uganda also has debt, but we all know America has the highest debt in the world.
Yeah.
The issue is not the debt. That's why before the discussion I was saying, I am overrating this narrative. In COVID, the rich countries borrowed $90 trillion. And we're here crying that we are
borrowing from who?
From they are borrowing system. They borrow from each other. They borrow from the finance system.
But that's the difference. Like they are in a club of.
That is what now that brings me to my that brings me to my point. It might not be that we have nowhere to go. It's just that we are also squeezed. Now, do you know how much interest was charged on that 90 trillion? Less than 1%. And obviously it's structured in a very different way because these debts come from their countries. The US has the most debt in the world. So the issue why Singapore, China and all those countries cracked through is because they found a strategic leverage on the world. And that is why they could now negotiate better debt. China introduced its own banking system, money transfer mechanisms. So now we are in a situation where we have to jumpstart the productivity of our very young population. You saw in Uganda, 50% are below 18. Really, we have a lot of, we are all Ugandans, including Gold. We have a lot of work to do. So now, in Kenya's case, Ruto is trying to balance. He has traveled the world. He's looking for jobs for Kenyans. You saw the deals he made. Every country Ruto has been going to, he has been making deals on Kenya's behalf. Billions and billions of dollars. Most, you and I are a bit in the tech world. Nairobi has received about $10 billion in investments, FIDs, since Ruto came into power. There is a whole tech highway thing going on. But it's not enough to catch up with funding the state. You know, so the population has to grow to a level where it can feel free to pay tax. The rest is the politics, like you were saying. You don't just stamp everything on people.
Yeah.
Maybe Kenyans have not learned to be as manipulative, but I'm sure or as political, because there's also the politics of it.
Yeah.
Laws will always have to pass. So as a statesman, part of the game is knowing how to deal with your population.
That's right.
You don't start by taxing everything in the home. He's looking at flour, you've taxed it, oil, you've taxed it, he wants to send money, you've taxed, and it's all in one bill. Clearly, you're just cooking your own self in a pot. So I think there's, to answer your, to summarize in response, there's a gap. The Rutos, the Musevenis with industrialization, jobs and everything, they're trying to catch up. But at the same time, it's not catching up fast enough to fund government domestically. And we also, as Africa, do not have the leverage to create a strategic... Singapore is a strategic city for the world. They specialized in services. China, Japan, these guys, if they collapse, the world collapses. And we don't have that. So we can't also negotiate this. So there's still that gap. And unfortunately, our leaders have to deal with it mathematically, scientifically, but also the art of it. Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
We are due for a short commercial break. Gold and Roy, let me begin with you after this short commercial break. See you shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We'll be back from that short commercial break. Well, we'll just continue. And go.
Yes, please.
The internet was awash with comparisons between, the Kenyan youth and the Ugandan youth. That for us, if such an issue was contentious in our country, the way through which we would respond to it would not be with as much enthusiasm and with as much energy and, compared to what we saw in Kenya. Just in your small contextual analysis, that what fundamental difference exists between the people of Kenya and those of Uganda? Or is that also another misplaced conversation, that people are comparing things that should not be compared exactly? But the point is that we all need to be conscious enough to say this is wrong and we speak against it. So just maybe what is the level of civic consciousness if it comes to Uganda's context?
Yeah, thank you. Just like one of our colleagues said here, that Kenya is always ahead of us in regards to...
Which colleague?
That Kenya is always ahead in regards to democracy. And in this case, comparing Ugandan youths and Kenyan youths, I think we, the youths of Uganda, have not really seen the effect of coming together as one and standing for what we don't agree with and what we agree with. For example, of recent, we had also the same conversation at Kololo, where taxes were high and all that, but you saw how actually it is generation Y that was so highly, really speaking highly of the taxes and all that. So surely Ugandan youths, I think
so
we have.
Is it the political parties? Is it the political inclination? What exactly stops us from coming together and saying, on this course we are partyless, we are tribeless, we are careerless?
One is
for a good cause.
Thank you. If you're to compare the security of Uganda and Kenya, there is a very huge difference. very huge. In that in Uganda, a youth would be scared of standing on what is right, because they will be maybe threatened by security, the army here and there, something small even in the country, already the army is there. You're getting? So how do you expect a youth to really?
Fear.
Of course, yes, we do.
Sort of.
Most of the youths, yes, the president, one say that the president listens, yes, he does, but then if you're to consider the majority youths, like let's talk about opposition actually. The opposition party, maybe NUP in this case. Anything small that they have organized or something of that kind, and then the army is there, you see how everyone runs away from there. Yes, exactly. And so do you and also we have parties that don't understand that the challenges we face as a country come to our faces, all of us, like as citizens of the country, but not rather the party. So I think more of the Ugandan youths are going into the I am this party, I am going to affiliate myself with this party, and at the end of the day, I forget that I'm a youth of a country and I have to stand for the youths and other majority voices there.
Rightly so. I think I agree with you to some extent, because if you look at, for example, the Makerere Convocation election, I mean, OBs of an institution coming to say, we are going to vote our leaders, but the level of military
that exactly.
in such a small process, I think also really sends a strong message in terms of, because we are human beings who are nurtured by our psychobiography, the things that we experience every day, so, sort of builds up to who we actually become.
Yeah, maybe it's more information that one thing as a country, maybe something that is not pronounced out there, that we are an equivalent of a military state.
We are a military state.
Yes.
Yeah.
That everything.
He's even afraid to say it.
I want to tell you that
the state is military.
When you look at the response, the response of how this regime responds to issues, it is military at the forefront.
Yeah.
That's why there is so much fear here. When you see what was happening in Kenya, there was restriction of the KDF. They tried to deploy the institution, the judiciary institution, came in and said, look, issued orders to ensure that they should not, kill people, they shouldn't shoot at people, they should restrain from the KDF, the Kenyan Defense Forces, from coming at the forefront on the streets. Now here we have lost the independence of institutions that would be protecting the ordinary citizens. You saw the church in Kenya coming and supporting the common cause of the Gen Z. You saw churches giving platforms to young people and say thank you, for speaking out this loud and calling government to listen to the young people. Here the church is asking for cars.
And the other thing, maybe Kidega,
so
just like I said, what he's saying,
you're
given platform as young people, but we have lacked the kind of unity among the youths. Because I said it earlier, we have, as youths of Uganda, we have focused highly into what the ideologies that we believe in, which vis-a-vis the ideologies that would really develop a country and maybe like create unity. Because I mean the youths are the majority in the country, and so if we fronted for something like today, we can be heard. But what stops us? What stops us? We are known together as one, and the other thing is that we have barriers ahead of us, which he said that the country is equivalent to the military, which is very true. Which is very true.
So, okay, I have to bring in Roy.
Yes.
Roy has been quite a bit. Roy, has 2027 come too early for Kenya?
No,
Is this politics? Oh yes, there is the the bill and all that, but has the politics come too early? Like reading beyond what we see, beyond what we see, has the politics come too early?
No, I don't think it's even so much political than social and economic, because whereas this has been a spark.
Because how do you transition from reject the finance bill to Ruto must go?
No.
So that's what I'm saying. Like beyond what meets the eye, are there things that we're not looking at?
Now we live in a context where presidents everywhere has so much power to control what happens. Even when we are discussing parliament, our colleague here has mentioned that he had the power to stop it, even at committee level.
Yeah.
You see? So, and then the same colleague says the institutions there are so independent to do all this.
Contradiction.
So, yeah. So,
maybe
of course,
just clarification, because I need clarification is that not
yes, a colleague.
Because I'm the person that mentioned it. You see, at what I was referring to him, to have listened to the Ugandans is not to say, guys, stop having this discussion. No, it is saying, let us this discussion, let it be given more listening here. Not to say, guys, do this, no, do the other.
Yeah.
No, it is to guide.
I think,
Clarification. Yes, but here where you have had the where the executive come in and swallow up by even bribing people receiving money. So how here our institution, of parliament, has lost its credibility as parliament because it is equivalent of a sellout market. You get it? And why? Who is buying? The executive. What is happening? Yes. What is happening with the judiciary? Same thing. Where you're seeing in Kenya, the judiciary stands its position and says, look, don't do this, and the state listens.
At a much later stage, we might need to have to talk about how do you achieve independence of institution, because I think the Kenya IGP is not appointed by the president, neither is the Chief Justice. We will get that point of how do you achieve independent institutions. But yes, Roy, first complete your argument.
Yeah, so regarding where it turns from the finance bill can't pass and all that to Ruto must go, is that many Kenyans feel like he had the bill fits into his rhetoric first of we need to increase taxes on this, and he has mentioned it several times on rallies both at home and abroad, that the country will not develop on aid and arms from all over the place, but by the taxes of the people. So when the bill comes and it has all these numerous taxes in a single bill, easily can be connected to him. So of course 2027, as I had mentioned, is not very far, even when the election has just ended, because theirs is a 4-year term, and we are already 1.5 years going to the second year. So the politics is happening on ground. You saw the bill passed with 204 votes, but 170 plus was against. So it's already a house polarized, and the likes of Millie or Diambo are making political statements, are also making them both on the floor of parliament and in their constituencies. The likes of Babu Owino are making the same statements on the floor of parliament and within the university student space. The likes of Manyara, the general student leader, very much affiliated to the being at the forefront of the demonstration. So whereas it was hugely an organic youth uprising, it also had political connotations behind it. But just to make a statement or two about the context in Kenya and in Uganda, is that our democracy is more broad-based. how we have very many avenues, very many platforms for these voices to come up and structurally be listened to. On every village, 9 youth leaders, every village of the country, women leaders, leaders of persons with disabilities, and that structure continues to the parish, to the sub-county, youth councillors. There is a youth parliament led by my comrade here. There is the NYC structure cut through across the country, and with its representation from district to national level. We have UNSA, 12 at the top, 10 at every district, even down to the school level, in that it's so wide a democracy, it is so wide a platform for all these voices to be listened to and for them to come to where the decisions are actually made. The issues of youth unemployment.
Should we then interrogate whether it's a matter of form versus substance? Because
no, it's not in
form, yes, they exist,
but do they
are the
really
voices actually are they actually being captured?
Yes.
Or they are there to,
and do they
to just bundle us there and just
no.
We have UNSA here, and it happens that our moderator is also an
NYC
leader,
and he's a speaker of the National Youth
Yes.
Council.
So really,
and what I'm saying is that where the youths would have mobilized to come up with to demonstrate against take for instance unemployment, we have a whole NYC structure that is raising those voices, and the likes of Nyamutoro, Rugumayo are putting those voices every day on the floor of parliament about how do the youth benefit from the mineral system.
Are we really doing
Yes. What I'm saying,
the Kenyan youth approach gets them results in 2-3 days.
No. I don't even think so.
Our approach has forever since.
I don't think so yet that they were held.
Those are tokenic. That's tokenic. That's tokenic.
It's not. It's not.
So what I'm saying is,
you don't think the youth of Kenya have gotten an actual gain from their uprising, from getting the voices high?
I think they have been listened to. I think they have been listened to. Just like the youth here have been listened
to and taken drastic action to meet their demands.
Now,
actually, that's the difference. What I say here, if you may allow me to just a second.
When it comes to the demand of unemployment, the youth here have been listened to, and various initiatives have been put up because of their voice, and therefore have been implemented.
So do you know how many youths are unemployed in Uganda? The percentage.
That's a discussion we can always have.
Okay.
Because the percentages are everywhere. You won't go anywhere and you find a non-existent unemployment rate.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll find that when the likes of youth leaders come to the floor of parliament and discuss, you'll find 30% of all government deals that come through are supposed to be given to youth.
So
but
that comes versus substance. But in form, yes, I agree with you that the DPDA Act makes mention of the 30%, government procurement that should go to youth led,
and all those things are livelihood.
And
all these come up as a result of the existence of a broad-based platform for these voices to come.
That are they functional? My question is the substance. For example, you are talking of the PDM, which is saying, you say
that is not really.
When you look at the PDM, which will say 30% to the young people, when you make actual audit, what is happening down there? When you look at the access to credit, in UDB, for young people, how many people are getting this money? So the challenge we have as a country is that us as young people, we have lost. We do not have that. What is in Kenya? For example, we look at issues as if they are party issues.
As if we are blinded to the reality.
Like corruption. For example, look at corruption here. Yeah, corruption. Where you're having now young people at the forefront being mobilized by party members to say, let our MOP who is being who's set for trial to come.
I think corruption has been quite a non-partisan issue.
Nelson, if you may.
No, what have we done about it?
Nelson,
Yes.
if you may.
Yeah, he's
Roy.
right.
What have we done about it? Kenya, just a minute. Kenya had an issue. You get it? It was non-partisan. They did something about it. For us, corruption is a big problem, and we accept that
it's a non-partisan.
Okay,
Just
but what have we done about it?
I want to bring just a hypothetical.
Yes.
Guys should be brought to reality.
Scenario to Roy. Roy, do you? I
running
believe
out from
personally.
the
I
shoe.
believe personally that if we did not have the National Youth Council in this country, if we didn't have UNSA, if we didn't have the National Youth Parliament, we would have a president of this country who is less than 50 years old. Because all this energy that we have has been
Mobilizing for the
put, no. It has been
Paddocked.
yes, paddocked. It
is in a paddock.
It's in the waiting lounge somewhere in the youth council. Like they've kept it there. If we didn't have these structures, all this energy could be channeled towards something else, something bigger, right? But because we know there is this NYC and there are over 6,000 youth who have just been paddocked there. You have UNSA, they are just there.
15 million
Believe me, I think that if we didn't have these structures, we would be going for something bigger than just the youth council.
What I'm thinking.
You would say that no. We don't want to be in the youth council structures. We want a young person who is the president of this country.
I think
that's the conversation.
What's
my opinion?
Yeah,
but
sure. Hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Okay. Now what
I have to bring in Sam. He has been quiet a bit, but
not so quiet. Yes, what I think is that the issue of aspiring for something bigger is not one of paddocked energies. What I'm thinking is that because these institutions have not lasted so much, have not lasted so long.
They have. But even years, UNSA, those are many years.
But even before, the likes of UNSA were there, like the NUSU were there, and we can't say because of their participation, that's why we had younger presidents. But the politics of our context, take for instance, why we see what is happening in Kenya and it hasn't happened in Uganda. Perhaps we need to look even more closely at our history. That the people of Kenya are products of a Mau Mau rebellion, and our own people are a product of the Lancaster Peace Agreement. All those things have to be looked at. But also the context of where we come from and the kind of leadership that we have, other than being a listening leadership, it understands the context of the troublesomeness of our past, and therefore takes every measure to make sure we do not have a country that goes in that direction. But also generally is that our young people, the demographics of our population, you know, we always make this blanket statement of our young people, we are the majority. But when you look at that population, is that we have a huge population of 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds who are in primary school, and no access to phones and no access to what, and of course we do not expect them on the streets. Okay, and they are what makes that 51%. Now, ours, the you and I, the university students, take for instance, all university students combined in Uganda are 400,000. Okay, and that's not the critical mass that we see on the streets of Kenya in millions. So the demographics of our population also has so much to play into how these events play out.
Oh, interesting. Something crossed my mind, and it's the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring was largely mobilized by young people. If you look at Egypt, the government of Hosni Mubarak fell down on a young people uprising that went to Tahrir Square and said, enough is enough and you must exit. But even when they did so, the people who came after them were more or less comprados, or more or less
age mates,
the same people to those that had fought against. So just I don't know, the Kenyans out there who have committed sweat, blood and lives, how can they organize themselves strategically to ensure that this is an opportunity for a young I don't know, a young vanguard you know,
Ruto is 50.
take away the Nailas. It's the opportunity for a young person to say, now, it's our time, and let these old guys just pack and go.
Yeah,
You know,
by the way,
2 years ago,
it is.
Ruto was the youngest president on the continent. 2 years ago. But with the new wave of the West, now all the Western bloc, you know, Senegal, Burkina Faso, all those revolutions. Now they are the youngest chaps on the and all revolutions almost across they have always been championed by the young people.
But what we miss is the organization.
I think it is the organization. So the organization.
So
thank you very much. I've been following quietly our discussion, but I would first like to disclaim that Ugandan youth, neither now or historically, have been cowardly or afraid to stand up. I believe on this panel, I can confirm that myself, Moses, Roy, there's also a photo of you, have been in jail for causes.
This one, this one is the boss.
I don't know about the two comments.
I've never been in jail.
And maybe the Makere of the goals was different. But
that is new. That's the new Makere.
But there's no doubt as to the capacity of Roy, of myself, of comrades, and of Moses. If you want, you can Google on YouTube the convocation. You'll see police lifting our moderator with his belt under the So neither now nor in history, whether it's recent history, we have seen people standing up. In our past, there's no youth group in the whole region combined that has lost more lives to national causes than Uganda, including the blood lost, if you count since independence. So I don't think it's an issue of I saw some people saying Ugandans are cowards. If we are to calculate the intensity with which Ugandans have risen, with facing adversity, facing different types of challenges, I think that is unfounded. It's just a moment. Now, the question I think...
Maybe our strength is isolated. That if the youth of Renzuru are saying, no, we cannot accept a government to come here and do ABCD, it is their affair.
I think
if the youth of, say, Buganda are saying in 2009, it is a Buganda affair. So, is it because we are isolated? Our strengths are isolated, and it's not nexus around.
No, it's an issue of context, but also most importantly, consciousness. Consciousness. What is the national consciousness? The consciousness Kenyans people are praising Kenya about is new, and perhaps Ruto contributed to the cause of this Gen Z. Why? Because he created a national wave on the hustler, an economic wave. And that was the foundation on which possibly these Gen Zs also stood. Perhaps if Ruto had contested on grounds of his tribe, there wouldn't be this wave. And so it's possibly a 2-year wave. Maybe you can look in the last 20 years if there's another financial bill type thing. No, most of them were tribal or political fights. And you can see Kenya. Now, Kenya had another conscience after 2008. That was also another wave. There was blood, and there was a new conscience in their country. Before that, when Moi left, when Moi left, there was, okay, we can move on without Moi. In 2008, they also moved on from a fight. In 2022, they moved on from dynasty. That's a very new conscience. So you have to ask ourselves, what is our conscience? And my colleague rightfully said that we come from a history of political turmoil. It's there in our preamble as the Constitution. And so perhaps there's a song that says a prisoner was talking to the jailer and was saying, I'm in chains, you're in chains too. I'm a prisoner, you're a prisoner too. I'm in a uniform, you're also in a uniform. So perhaps we are prisoners of a particular conscience. We haven't reason to transcend. And that comes from our history. Both civilian side, the people, a lot of Ugandans value their peace. Because we have just seen war. None of the Kenyan Gen Zs, I was debating with them the other day, have seen war. The three of us here grew up in a war. Yes? So even on the consciousness, what you prioritize is a bit different. Now, on the state side, also the should I say the reflexes of those, even when Museveni took power in 1986, he acknowledged that there are wrong elements within the NRM. But he said what matters is the conscience is a people-centered. And therefore, even when there are those kinds of errors, we need to correct them. Now, the question is that space, is that element increasing or decreasing? And that's where we need to stand up.
It's increasing.
It's crazy. As I was coming today, we all have a responsibility. I think as young people, even those, and most especially those in the NRM. As I was coming today, I think the NRM Youth League posted a strong statement against the arrest of this gentleman that is
Yes,
that is at Kira. I think we are awaiting, because we must always strive to have that conscience. As to whether Roy, Kidega, Gold, and my brother Nelson can rise, we have that power. The issue is, what is the conscience, and can we popularize? We are all, when you're captives, when a state accepts a conscience, now we have been in the stability and peace conscience, saying, well, this is what we're going to take. And we have become comfortable. We have learned how to thrive, how to do business in it, how to study in it, how to marry in it, and all of those things. So, you should reflect, are we afraid of what next? Because not necessarily bad. No? So I think that is where the difference is. But really, Ugandans are some of the bravest young people on this continent. Ideologically, we are some of the most rigorous and politically robust youth on the continent. And I believe a big part of that has come from the NYC and all the structures. The quality of debate that Ugandans elude is unmatched continentally. So I think what is left is, can we groom this conscience? And there's an opportunity, because now we are seeing, I mean, if you go to other countries, people don't, Nelson and I don't sit together. I'm NRM, you know, Gold is, I don't know, but, you know, people don't sit together, they don't converse. But now we are turned an opportunity where we can actually build a conscience together. Because that division you're talking about is also one of our biggest strengths. That the biggest tribe in Uganda is only 17% of the population, has perhaps saved us from a lot. And we need to use that division as our strength. Because if the Acholi, if me and you say, okay, we are leading the Acholi to secede, we can't manage. We are 2 million out of 50. The Baganda, who they cannot make, they are 17% with all their prominence. So I think there's strength in that diversity, but now we need to think, reimagine a new conscience. I think everyone is waiting for that. And I remember when you used to visit us at the law firm, I used to work at Semakade's law firm, and we were always designing protests, petitions. So there was, when we were designing a movement, there was always muscle, then there was the ideology, but at the top, the north, there was always a leader, and would actually sit and say, what's the best face for this leader? And we would manufacture it. We say, okay, Roy seems to be, remember the Nalukwago issue? He said, okay, seems this, we would actually develop it there. And perhaps our conscience is also waiting for a leader. But that time is coming soon. Let's just hold our chins up and our shoulders back. And we will get there. So, thank you.
Well, fantastic. Nelson, let me get to you as we look forward to winding up. To me, the question is that Kenya indeed aspires, or is what you refer to as a constitutional democracy. That to them, rule of law is actually rule of law. Here in Uganda, people like Dr. Businje Kabumba have argued that Uganda is a castle built on a wetland. You have fantastic laws, but then they are not efficacious, like they cannot be implemented. All right. So the question is that is rule of law perhaps one of the yardsticks that we should look up to for us to achieve the constitutional democracy? That if the law says the police shall maintain law and order. They will do just that. If the law says under Article 282 that the UPDF shall have these functions, they should not be caught up at any one point in civilian affair, more so one that does not pose a threat to the sovereignty of the state. So how can we achieve that level of constitutional consciousness that we respect the law?
Yeah, respect of the law and rule of law is a cornerstone, to a functioning, democracy. And as a country, we have all it takes in terms of literature, statutes, and all that it requires to speak of rule of law, respect of human rights, freedom of expression. We have all that in our constitution. We have the entire chapter 4 speaking about the human rights. We have a number of ratified international conventions and statutes. But the crisis is on the nature, the nature, the heart of the leader we have. And that's where the problem is. And it has trickled down to because the leader has lost the will, to implement the statute, has lost the will to follow the law, because he feels, because by design he's renting support, so he has to ensure that he will try to appease. That's why there is, for example, we have the law to fight corruption. If it was to be implemented, those that have put their hand into the government coffers, illegally, with all the abuse, they would be in jail. But the challenge is, we have the IGG who will stand to say, I'm going to do the lifestyle audit. And he has the mandate, he has the entire, law in support of what he or she has to do, But the president says, go slow with the lifestyle audit. The judiciary stands up to give a judgment, and he says, but you people, the judiciary, you don't understand the politics here. You get it? Then, so that is the problem. The problem is the consciousness of our leadership structure. And the leadership structure starts with the president. Because if the president stood up to the occasion, then all these other officers, perhaps they would follow. So for me, we have good laws, we have good statutes, we have good regulations, we have all supporting documents in respect of having a functioning democracy. We have, separate, separation of powers, however they have to be, interconnected and complementary. But there is overriding. So that overriding is the one that has spoiled everything. You'll find the president want to be everywhere. He now is the judge, is the parliament, is the
private sector.
Is himself everything. And he has even cried about it that even corruption is in his state house. I hear people who pay money to see me. Why would you pay money to see me? You get it? But again, he has the money to say, IGG, take them on. But when the IGG rises, then let's say the CID, the police, and the will come in and try to antagonize. And why? Because he will not intervene. He will not reign over to say, look, let institutions take the lead and do their role. Because he knows he also wants their support. Because the following day will say, judiciary, I need that ruling in my favor. You get it? Then he will say, no, military, go and intervene. You must ensure that I am on the throne. So that is the problem that we have had as a country. That the heart of our leadership is dead. We do not have that, the consciousness, the rightful consciousness of saying, let's put Ugandans first. Because the challenge is, it has to be me. So when you put yourself at the center, if you put yourself as the, your interest, you become the interest at the expense of other of the population of the country, then you will want to use and appease whoever is around you. So when you're using and appeasing, it is hard to draw a line. But if we had a leader who says, this is a line, whoever, you know, has his hand, you know, beyond the measures, you know, by the state into consolidated money, you know, into the coffers of the country, then we will have you prosecuted. Then the prosecution arm from the CID to courts and to prisons, you know, the DPP and the
prosecute you,
you know, does the entire channel. But how? Here it is a reverse. You are having the members of parliament who are on, you know, who are being arrested or on investigation, waiting for their trial to take on. Before you know it, the speaker and the judiciary and the chief justice, the week before, they meet with the president, they are having a conversation. The following week, the speaker is in the constituency of somebody who is in prison, waiting, you know, under investigation, waiting for trial, and you're saying, your speaker, I mean your member of parliament will be a member of parliament forever. Then you're having another minister, yeah, you know, who is a minister now from the executive saying that Namuju is well, he will come back. Then you're having a member of parliament saying what the member of parliament alleged, you know, to have done, she did not do wrong. She shared with you. It's not about the sharing, it's about principles.
Yeah.
You get it? It's not about the sharing. So was she saying all Ugandans we should now steal and share with as long as we share? Yeah. So that you cannot. Yeah, so for me that is the problem, and that's why as Ugandan youth, as we are discussing this, we need to you know, to be up here, because before you know it, we are saying it is this, it is the other. He was mentioning something. They arrested the former RCC Rubaga at night against the law. No warrant, nothing, you know, and you know, is there. We need to speak about it. Before you know, they will come for Kidega. They will come for Agaba.
The NRM Youth League, we have made our voice known.
Yeah, I saw.
And we also urge ANT.
I saw that. You get it.
Our
so abuse of human rights is abuse. You get it. If you have a legitimate allegation or cause as an institution mandated to do investigations and arrest, you know, someone arrest in a proper manner. You get it. That's why you saw people. When,
but also, why arrest me? Then begin to look for evidence.
Yeah, of course. Now,
first look for evidence.
Yes, because that is that is the broken system. Because our systems are not functioning. I will tell you. You have had people in NRM, and I like the voice among the young people. It is not like the you know the ordees. When they are rearrested Akamba, you know, people started saying they have arrested Akamba, you know, he's NRM and all this. You know, it was quite humiliating of a member of parliament to be rearrested in that manner. You get
also
it? Also
within court confines.
Within court, you know, the precedents of. So, but we didn't see people coming up and, you know, but this thing has been happening to no people, to opposition, you know, to the Sewanyanas and all that. So it is a wake-up call that a wrong is a wrong, and we must wake up. And what should unite Ugandans? Both the Ordees, us, the young people, the millennials, the Gen Zs, we must speak against bad, we must speak against wrong, and stand for the truth, and before you know it, our country will be liberated.
True. Gold, there is a great revolutionary of Cuba who said that if you tremble at the sight of injustice, then you're a comrade of mine. I think, Roy, you know that passage. But the point that he's trying to say is that we need to be each other's keeper, right? That a wrong thing happening somewhere else affects you either directly or indirectly. Like before you know it, tomorrow it will be you or me who is being arrested in such a manner. But the question, just to be precise, is how can we inculcate a particular culture? Because you lead students. Do you think that our education system is a bit lacking in terms of, at that level, creating a consciousness in the pupil in primary school? Because I think what Tanzania does is, at the lowest level of education, they introduce you to certain principles of patriotism, of, you know, how CCM does things. do you think maybe we need to? Do you think maybe we need to sort of like at that lowest level begin to say, okay, you know, corruption is bad. So the point is our education system a bit not incorporating some of the very core moral values?
Thank you, Kidega. But I'll zero down the fact that leadership is a key factor to everything in a country. One is that the top is the management of everything. The top, I mean, the president of the country oversees literally what is down there through the people that help him in governance and all that. Ministries, private sector, civil society and everyone. Because if we go back to schools, yes, students are installed into different norms and values that they should follow at a very young age. If I asked all of us on this panel, we've gone to schools where like the structure grooms you into a citizen that really is good or presentable to the country. Come to the different universities you've gone through, it is the same. Now you're out of university, you're out of school, what do you find outside? And if you're getting it, what you find outside is totally different from what has been in the structure of education. I'm not blaming the education system, but yes, they should as well empower the students through UNSA and all the different structures that reach students to be groomed into good citizens of the country. But I question the governance that we hold as a country. Because if you cannot stand by the constitution that this is not right, and you just mask it around, that this, I'm not going to talk, you cannot touch on the speaker or what, because this whole thing began a long time ago, like the corruption and all that is in the country. So if you cannot stand for what is right as a leader, just because of your personal interests, I don't then find sense into what any other member would do. Yet the top management is doing the opposite. I don't know if you're getting it. I speak this with a heartfelt concern of what our children and generations that will come after us will be seeing. Because even our fellow youths have turned into something else. I don't know if you're getting it. You stand for what is wrong, yet you know what is right. Just because of what you affiliate yourself to. I don't believe in that. And so surely schools have done their level best and are doing their level best. I don't know how many schools I've gone to. Yes, even over the weekend I've been traveling. I'm speaking to students. Different entities are coming on board. We're with Uganda AIDS Commission, we're with different Uganda human rights. Sensitizing, mobilizing students at that young level. I mean, secondary schools, universities, we've gone through the same thing. But then now outside, what we find outside is totally different. And we cope up with the norms.
The speaker will still go to
yes, we are sharing. They all
to respect
exactly. They're not.
Because if the speaker was respecting institutions, she would have, you know, she's a lawyer. There is a res judicata. The matter is being investigated under,
some judice.
There is that. You must respect institutions.
Sure.
But when a head of an institution like Parliament is now massaging and corruption, and then a president who says I don't be in my gun side, then the same speaker is carrying a present because a donation from the president. So there is a contradiction, and it is evidence of manipulation and lack of goodwill from the leadership to fight corruption.
Fair enough.
If I may.
Just to bring in Roy.
Okay.
Lastly.
Basically, also to speak to your question to Gold, regarding the training, especially of civics, which is glaringly lacking in Uganda. Gold leads 10 million people?
15
million youth in the country. I think it's important for us to know that even above the leadership, there are other levels of power.
Yeah.
Now the chronology is that indeed we used to have civics. I believe some of us at the youngest age did.
And that's still happening, actually.
The programs were much more active and more common in Chankwanzi. But in 2005, obviously at the pressure of the structure adjustment, we had to move into multi-party system. And after 2006, that was the peak of adjustments to make sure it works by the West.
Yeah.
It was it's on record that it was one of the complaints from the opposition at the time that civic education in Uganda was being used to mobilize, to indoctrinate youth into NRM. And therefore, we were held by, I don't know if we were held by the balls as a country and told if you do not remove this, we will not fund education. And that is the chronology of why civics was disappeared. And I was there in 2010 in the president's last attempt to revive it in Masaka Secondary School, when he revived the Patriotism Club. That was a rebuttal to try and attempt to cover that gap by the West. And he was hoping that the Patriotism Club could cover. Obviously it can't, because it's not curricular, it's not modular. So that is the chronology. I think the opposition cries for national dialogue. These are some of the issues that we'll have to bring up as we look to reinvent, because other countries did not allow. If Tanzania refused, so we can also.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective, Roy. Just to conclude with you this conversation is that moving forward is the question of institutions, because what happened to Tripoli that we see today is because Gaddafi did not build institutions. Yeah? We need institutions as powerful as the ones we saw in Sudan that told Bashir that no, we have so many, we have people who have come on streets. We cannot shoot everyone down dead so as to maintain in power. So how can we build institutions that can say, you know what, country first? That you have a judiciary that is independent, that aspires, that indeed stands for the will of the people. So you'll have 2 minutes, then I will invite parting shots in just 30 seconds, please. So your 2 minutes.
I think the major issues affecting our country and continent are being addressed. And one of them, as President Museveni mentions in his paper, the 11 strategic bottlenecks affecting Africa's socio-economic transformation, is the weak institutions. Therefore, he has gone a huge mile in addressing that issue by building institutions like the police, the military, to the capacity it is now from a ragtag military. Given our context, building back the judiciary to all levels, even including more circuits of the court to answer the raising issues of people, taking the court even closer to the people in solving issues even without going through the court process, like the alternative dispute resolution. I think regarding the broad-basedness of these institutions, we've gone a long way. Now, what we need now is to turn that quantity into quality, and that's how society progresses. That you do not wake up one day and do it wrong. So yes, we must. These issues are going to be realized. All this, of course, 20 years back, some of these structures didn't even exist. Now we have many structures that exist to challenge issues like corruption and those issues that are affecting our people. Issues like court cases, being in court for all that long. We have, we didn't even have a parliament a few years back. Now we have it. We have youth being represented there, the elderly being represented there. So the existence of the structure has been answered. The broad-basedness of the structure to reflect the entire expanse of our population has been put in place. Now, in the universal laws of the dialectics, we have covered the quantity issue. Now it is time to cover the quality issue. That we have universal primary education there, okay, and it has 11 million pupils. That is good. Now, how do we turn it from the quantity it is and progress it into quality? Then you tell the teachers there that now, a few years ago, we are allowing you as a grade 1, but now we are giving you 3 years to improve to this grade, okay? And that is how society progresses. Now, and I think we are progressing quite well. Of course, there are rogue elements, like what our members are talking about. The president says, this is a time to fight corruption, and I call upon all citizens to come together in this fight against corruption. He actually calls it the Alliance of Patriots Against Corruption. And then the following day, the speaker does that. Of course, under the law, that is within protected speech. It is immoral what she did. But if you were to sue her, it is protected speech. It's not incitement, okay? It is immoral what she did, and we can prosecute her and all that. But
why wait for prosecution? Why don't we, rally ourselves and
politically?
Yeah, of course. And we have one of the highest non-return rate to Parliament. Those to institutions of leadership. Those who have come and betrayed the cause of the people have been recalled many a time, have lost their elections. And the head of state also mentioned the other day that for those we shall not get through the law, they will pay politically. And
your parting shots.
My parting shots are perhaps an agreement with all colleagues here that we have a country to build, and regardless of all these issues that could come up as points of divisions, we have to come together and answer the call of our generation. Every generation has, you always part with that. Every generation has a mandate. And our mandate, the likes of President Museveni and his group, led us to this kind of good governance that we are in, where peace from border to border, my comrades like Olaa no longer sleeping in the bush or neither am I in Vunyangavu. Now that peace is there. Now that chapter has to be closed, and we lead ourselves to socio-economic transformation. And to go there, we must defeat corruption, because it is one of the cancers that is affecting our society and the progress generally of our people socially and economically.
Fantastic.
I love the fact that Roy has really understood the core values of NRM, but yeah. Dear viewers, thank you so much for watching the Civic space. One I can say is that every continent on earth has challenges and problems, but the decisions you take or the decisions you make in regards to the challenges matter a lot. And so mind your conscience to the decisions or to what you believe in, and do the right things. Let's not be taken up by the wave. Stand for what is true. At the end of the day, maybe that could be your legacy as a person. Otherwise, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here once again.
Nelson, your parting shots.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is just to give a reminder that today we are young people, tomorrow we are, founding families, and we are getting to be the adults, the adults of above 35, and before you know it, 50 and all that. It is our time. Nobody will do it for us if we don't stand the occasion and stand for what is right. And we must do it with a uniform voice. What affects you affects me. When rain rains, it will rain on us. It will not select ANT, NRM, NUP or FDC. You get it? A bad road is a bad road. It all costs us. lack of, you know, services in hospital, they will all, you know, cost us. Because we all have villages where we come from.
Sure.
You know, poor services in schools is a poor service. When we can, for example, when young people, because we need to look at, for example, human resource development, it starts with, you know, training the mind, and it starts in school. What is the capitation grant, you know, given to the UPE, Universal Primary Education, you're talking about? You get it? About 20,000. That affects the quality of education, the quality of, you know, the mind development of a child. You get it? So those common issues that put the country first should unite us as young people, because if we don't do it, we are lamenting today, we will lament when we are old, because if we don't you know, participate in solving our current problems, they will catch with us in our old age, and we now will be crying to our children that they should help us. Then they will also be saying, but what did you do in your time when you're youth? So it's high time we realize that we need to find a common problem, approach it. You know, the NRA, these parties are just vehicles, are just vehicles to realize the common good of our country, Uganda. And we only have one Uganda.
Sure. Fantastic.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to congratulate us upon this very productive session. I personally learned a lot, but also enjoyed. And thank you, Moses, for the wonderful moderation. To our Kenyan colleagues, really, we cannot debate you without acknowledging you. We appreciate your work in the democratic space of Kenya. And as you always do in every crisis, rise. Rise, and continue rising. To our Ugandan youth out there, indeed, the first cabinet of this country, the average age in 1962 was 29 years old. And therefore, most of us qualify to be in that cabinet. That means there are those who are younger. It is time to take on leadership of issues. Time to take on. We have the capacity, we have the mandate to take on this leadership. Interest yourself in the strategic issues of our country, issues of labor, industrialization, issues of managing the resources we have now discovered, issues of security, issues of education. These are permanent problems. Even when we solve one, another will come. So we have to continue thriving. But also, partingly, partake in leadership. Go and contest in your village, because I believe that's how we groom a conscience. If we do not stand together, we are now fathers of according to the census. We have a new responsibility to father 50% of Ugandans who are below 18. And therefore, if we ignore this duty, two things. One, it will soon be illegal to discuss things like corruption, oppression. You discuss and you're finished off from outside the gate. So if we do not combine our conscience early now, but also we shall soon have a generation not just unemployed, but in gangs, in cults, and so on and so forth. So really, let us rise, further those below us already, and make Uganda a better place. Thank you very much.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Sam. Thank you very much, our youth leader from NT, Your Excellency from UNSA, and our comrade from the National Resistance Movement. Thank you very much for your time. Of course, to the technical team, thank you for ensuring that our viewers get this show right on time at 2 p.m. Well, my last words seems to be the consensus of what they have said, which is, I'll borrow the words of Franz Fanon in his book, Wretched of the Earth, which is, you know, every generation has to decide what its generational mission is, but the choice again to fulfill or betray it is entirely up to them. The Kenyan youth have decided that they have a generational purpose, and they're going ahead to fulfill it. I think the challenge, you know, lies upon every young person on the continent. Until next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.